Hey up everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing alright and welcome if you're new. My name is Hutch and I like to build in The Sims 4 and in general I just like to play Sims games. So yeah, today we're building our second build for Tiny House Week, which is a week of, it's a 5-day week, so for the next 5 days I'm going to be building tiny houses every day on my channel. And yeah, I thought I'd do a little intro just to welcome any new people. I'm not very good at doing like the welcome stuff. I have my intro, it is I just say Eyup and get on with talking. So if I sound a bit awkward, it's because I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, I want to talk about the build. So today's tiny house is a tiny cottage. And at first glance, I guess it don't look like a tiny house, but it is actually classed as one. It's under 100 tiles. I think it's classed as a tier 3 tiny home. The first one I did, I think that was also classed as a tier 3. I really ought to say that, shouldn't I, at the beginning of the build. I've already recorded the speed build for the first one. So moving forward, I will say what tier tiny house it is. It's probably a good idea, but it'll be in the description anyway. So yeah, I thought I'd do a cottage. I love building cottages in The Sims 4. There's just something so kind of like satisfying about it. Like, I don't know if that's the right word, but I find it really comforting building cottages. When cottage living was announced, I remember I cried when I watched the trailer. I actually cried about it because I was so excited and like happy because of all like the build stuff. The gameplay looked fun. Obviously, like trailers, you know, they make the gameplay look amazing anyway, don't they? You can't really go off what the gameplay is based on the trailer, but that was like the first pack since I think Island Living that I'd seen the trailer for and were like, oh my god, this is exciting. And when I got Cottage Living, it was the first time doing gameplay for like years in The Sims 4. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't play it for long because I were, you know, starting my YouTube channel up and, well, not really starting it, but I had started it. I was making videos. I didn't stream at that point, so I didn't have a lot of time to like get any gameplay in. And when I do play with gameplay, I like to play Sims 2 because that's my favourite Sims game. So I didn't have a lot of time for playing Cottage Living gameplay, but the stuff that I did do, I really enjoyed it. I loved going to like, I think I talked about this before when I did like my first build with Cottage Living. I had this like little routine set up in my gameplay where my sim would wake up, I'm playing as my sim self, well she would wake up, she'd tend to the farm, the chickens, and then once it got to like the afternoon time, she would have a little bit to eat. I had that lot trait where it's like simple living, I think it is, where you just live off the food that you grow and like the stuff you have to have ingredients for stuff. So if you want to make pancakes, you can't make them unless you have like eggs or whatever it is. I know in real life you need eggs and flour, and do you need milk for pancakes? Can't remember. I think you do. Whatever it is in The Sims, you can't make them unless you have the ingredients. So that's the lot trait. But yeah, I basically did that. I'd make something to eat and then I would, you know, take care of my Sims' needs, maybe socialise a little bit. Maybe she'd call up a neighbour and just see how they're getting on, and then go back to taking care of the animals and finishing off the rest of the farm. And then in the evening time, I'd always go over to like the pub and just go and eat like some Yorkshire puddings or cottage pie or something. And I don't know, there was just something about it. I miss that like little gameplay that I did with that. I had a lot of fun playing with it. There's something about like farming and like taking care of the basic stuff in The Sims, even though it can be quite like monotonous and, you know, it's quite, I don't know, repetitive, I guess, like doing the same thing every day, taking care of animals, taking care of the house, tidying up and stuff. I mean, some of my favourite gameplay in The Sims 2 is cleaning. I don't know why, I just love it. But yeah, I really liked doing that. So I don't know, maybe it's all that. Maybe that's why I like building cottages. But I knew that I wanted to build a tiny cottage for Tiny House Week. I just thought they're one of my favourite things to build. To say that my favourite like style, interior decorating style, or just like my, you know, architectural style in general is quite modern. My favourite anyway. I don't mean that it's my style, but that's like my favourite sort of thing. I do like building the sort of whimsical cottagecore type houses. So I had a lot of fun with this one. There's a lot of landscaping. I would say that like half of the video is landscaping, just because I did like so much with it and I didn't want to cut it out. Sometimes when I do a lot of landscaping, sometimes I'll like cut it out a little bit and trim it down and make it not as repetitive. But I had so much fun putting the landscaping together, and I had quite a bit of fun like editing it and, you know, putting it all together and watching it come together as a house and as a build. So I thought, why not keep it in for once? Don't always have to edit it out. I will be putting chapters on these videos just because I kind of want to get into the habit of doing chapters from now on. So all of the builds from this week will have, and from now on in general, will have chapters in the description. So if you don't want to sit through all of the exterior, you don't have to. You can skip to the interior if you want to. The interior is quite cute, if I do say so myself. Obviously I had limited space to work with, so I had to like put it all together sort of planned out and make sure I use all the space that I've got carefully. But I really like how it turned out. I think it's just like a typical cozy cottage in my opinion. And I will say the packs that I used, if I can remember, they'll be in the description, but off the top of my head, obviously I use cottage living. I also use cats and dogs, and I did actually build this house with space for a pet. And when I say space for a pet, I mean I put some pet balls down. So if you want like a pet bed, you're gonna have to find a place for the pet bed. When I play with pets in the Sims, my pets rarely sleep in a pet bed. They just sleep on the floor, or they'll sleep on like settees and stuff. And I don't mind having dogs or cats sleep on furniture in the Sims, but in real life I think I would probably buy them like their own bed so they've got their own space. But in the Sims, I don't know, I don't mind them sleeping wherever they want to sleep. It's just something about letting my pets have like free reign over the house that I probably would not have them do in real life. I probably have a bit more like rules in place. But anyway, what was I on about before? Oh yeah, the packs. So I used cottage living, cats and dogs. I think I also used get together. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. I just know for a fact it were cats and dogs. Maybe I'll remember what packs I used when we move on to the interior. But I didn't want to use too many packs. Maybe that's all I used. Maybe I only used those two. I might have done. I'm trying to look at the build items that I can see, but they're really tiny on screen while I'm recording the voiceover. So either way, they'll be in the description. I know I didn't use a lot. But yeah, I also built a pond with this house. I was gonna do like a bridge going over the pond, but I don't know, there's just something about the pond tool and like putting a bridge over it. I did try it a little bit. It weren't looking how I wanted it to look. I wanted it to just look a little bit more natural. Like I didn't want it to, I kind of wanted like a natural, I want to say brown, like a natural bridge. If that makes any sense. I did try it, like I said, I did try building a bridge over it, but it did take up quite a lot of lot tiles, and I wanted like a fairly large pond, and I don't know, there was just something about it, it weren't looking right. I couldn't get it to look good, and I was also looking through the debug menu to find any bridge items, because I've seen it where people build a bridge but then they put debug bridges like on that bridge. So basically you build the bridge out of a foundation, you make it like 1 or 2 tiles wide, and then you stretch it over the like the body of water, and then like you lower it into the ground, so it's actually the roof that's the bridge. So I feel like I didn't explain that very well at all, but basically I tried to do a bridge over the pond. It weren't really looking how I wanted it to look, so I just raised the terrain in the middle and then have like 2 separate ponds, and I quite like how it turns out. I think it's a little bit like unconventional when it comes to building ponds in The Sims 4. I feel like people don't really have it like that. I don't know if I like how it turned out actually. Now I'm saying it, I'm like doubting myself, but no, I think it looks alright. I think when all the landscaping comes together it kind of fits. Also, it's quite a small lot, so there's only so much you can do with the pond tool. I feel like if you have a pond that's too small, it looks a bit out of place and a bit like weird, whereas if the lot's quite big and you've got enough space for a what's it called, a pond or a lake or a big body of water, then it looks better with a bigger lot, which I've done before. I've had it where I've built a cottage like house, it's got like a big pond to it and everything. So yeah, I hope that you like this one. It took a long time to put together. The first tiny house that I did, I think it took me like an hour to like actually build the entire thing for the speed build, and then it were about an hour, 2 hours planning it. This one took a lot longer than that. I had a couple like draft versions before I actually settled on this. I was going back and forth with the colour scheme for the exterior for so long. It went from like dark brown, then it was like white at one point, then it had some red in there, then it was like green in the windows, and oh my god, it was so back and forth. I was getting really stressed out about it, but I ended up settling for the like lighter sandy coloured stone and then dark wood like windows with that like sandy coloured framing to them, and I quite like how it turned out. I also put some like ivy, is it ivy? Whatever it's called, some plants growing up the front of the house. I feel like I do that with a lot of my cottage builds, like they always tend to have something growing up the side of them. I were tempted to use the plants from Jungle Adventure, but I didn't want to use Jungle Adventure just for the sake of using some plants, because I wouldn't have used any other item from that pack, so I ended up not using those. But there's some like flowery wall plants with Jungle Adventure. I want to use them all the time, but I don't like using a pack for a build unless I'm going to use multiple items. Like, I wouldn't just use the plants from Jungle Adventure and then nothing else. So I decided not to do that, decided not to use that pack. Also, I will say, that little sign that you've got to put down in the pond to like allow it to be fished from, those are so temperamental. I don't know if you've ever built a pond before, like a pond that's intended to be fished from, where it doesn't matter where you place them, sometimes it's just like, nope, doesn't count. Because our pond works in The Sims 4 is you build the pond, but to have fish actually be in it, your sim has to manually put a fish there. So you have to click on that sign and like assign the fish that spawn there. So when I was playtesting the build, I did it with goldfish just because that was the first fish that my sim caught, and I assigned it all correctly. I was supposed to do it, and then when I sent my sim to fish from the pond to make sure it was working, it wasn't coming up that there was any fish there. So it's kind of temperamental. You might have to play around with it, just sort of see how you get on. But I just wanted to mention that just for in case you want to download the build and then you're wondering, well, why is the pond not working? I tried my best. You might just have to move the sign a little bit. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention it, like I said. But anyway, moving on to the interior, thought I'd show you the bathroom just because why not. It's just a basic bathroom really, bath, sink, toilet, nothing special about it really. I've not playtested this build yet, by the way, so if some of the interior changes on the screenshots, like compared to what I actually built, then it'll be because I playtested it and something weren't working. But I will be playtesting all the builds before they go up on the gallery. But yeah, I weren't really sure what I wanted to go with for the interior. I knew like I wanted a typical cottage style, but I just weren't sure what colour scheme I wanted to go with. So when I first started out in the kitchen, I was going for like a light wood swatch of the kitchen cabinets. Then at some point I went to like a dark blue swatch, but the blue and the wood top, it were a bit too cool toned, and I just thought it made the room look a bit cold and just I didn't really like it. So I ended up going with a wallpaper from Cats and Dogs, and then that kind of drew me to go with more of like a dark wood cabinet, which I don't normally use. I normally do opt for either the green swatch of the cottage living cabinets, or the counters should I say, or I'll go with the white swatch. Those are like my two favourite swatches of them. I don't really go with the dark brown that often at all. In fact, I don't think I've ever used the dark brown swatches. I'm just trying to think back. Maybe I have for a room build, I don't remember, but yeah, I don't use it often anyway. Oh, I'm just remembering as well, I used My Wedding Stories for this build. I think I only used it for the tea set because none of the like coffee makers were looking right, and I thought, oh, do you know what would look cute here? A little tea set. And then I thought, oh, we've got one, haven't we, with My Wedding Stories. So yeah, if you don't have that pack, I think this is the only thing, and maybe like one bunch of flowers or something that I used in this build. I think that's the only thing from that pack, but it just fits so well, especially in that little like blue swatch. It's like, I don't know, very grandma. I don't know. That's not an adjective, is it? If saying something's very grandma, but you know what I mean. It's giving me a grandma feel to it. But yeah, I think it's only that, and then maybe a bunch of flowers from that pack. So if you don't have that pack, don't worry about it. You can always replace it with the decorative tea set or just put a coffee maker there. But yeah, I quite like how the kitchen turned out. Oh god, I feel like I'm losing my voice a little bit. I don't know why. I've not done that much talking today. In fact, I've been silent up until recording this voiceover because I'm home alone. But yeah, I just put like a basic dining table in here. I just put it for 2 just because I feel like more than 2 would have made it look a bit cluttered. But then maybe I should go in after when I playtest and put another chair down, because this house is intended for at least 3 Sims. So, or at max 3 Sims actually, because there's 2 bedrooms to it. But then again, it could be a single parent, it could be a grandparent living with the grandkid, or it could just be 2 grandparents that have the grandkids stop over. I don't know, I haven't really thought about what type of Sims live here. But then for the living room, it is really small. I'm kind of nervous about playtesting this one because I quite like the layout of it, even though it is really little. So I hope that it stays looking like this. I guess you'll know when you watch the screenshots if I had to like move things around. But I put just like a basic fireplace. I kind of wish we had smaller cottage looking fireplaces with base game. The ones that we got with Cottage Living, they're just too big for a build like this. They kind of looked a bit, I don't know, like the fireplace took over the entire room and I didn't really like it. But yeah, I used a more basic looking one, which looks a bit too modern for me for this build. But do you know what? I had to do the best. What is the phrase? I did the best I could with what I had. There you go. That's how I excuse any bad decisions I make in my life. I did the best I could with what I had. But moving on to the main bedroom, it's quite basic. I went with the cats and dogs bed, and I had to go with the flowery wallpaper, which I kind of feel like this is becoming one of my favourite wallpapers in the game, that base game flowery wallpaper. It's got quite a few variants of it, you know. It's got like a full version, then it's got this like half wood cladding version, and then it's got like a white version of that. Then there's one where it like looks a bit more like a stone. It's like half stone at the bottom. For a cottage build, it actually suits pretty well. I quite like it. But yeah, for the bedroom, I just kept it quite basic really. Just put down some decorative items, some candles, and then I put down a dresser and yeah, a mirror. That's about it. I were going to put the pet bed in here, but it just, I don't know. I kind of hate the pet beds in The Sims 4. They just don't even look like pet beds. It just looks like a cushion. Or like a blanket that someone's chucked on the floor. Which, you know, maybe most dog beds do look like that. But if you look at like Sims 2 dog beds, and I can't remember what they looked like in Sims 3, but I think they were similar to the Sims 2 ones. They actually look like a dog bed. Like it looks like a proper thing that dogs lay in and look comfortable in. Whereas in The Sims 4, it's just a quilt. And then there's like a tiny one that's like a circular quilt. Don't really like it. But anyway, moving on to the kids' room. Again, it's quite basic. It is a small house, so I feel like there's only so much you can fit in. I haven't put a lot of activities on the inside of the house, so there isn't like a chess table or an easel. There's no real like skill building items, objects, whatever. So I've just put down the stuff that you need to take care of your Sims needs. And then I guess on the outside, you could have stuff for skill building. But I've not really put that many in the build. They've got a bookshelf, but yeah, there's not like an easel or a guitar or a chess table, like stuff that I would normally put in a build. But yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't have a chess table on the outside if you wanted. But yeah, I also kind of wanted to show you briefly, which I don't think you can really see, how I place items on the top of, oh my god, how am I explaining this? How I put clutter on the top of like side tables and dressers without using the red shelf, because I feel like a lot of people want to know how to do stuff like that, but they can't use mods for whatever reason, say if they're on console. So I kind of tried to show you how to do that, but obviously it's a speed build, so it's not the best format to show you how I build things. But I am planning on doing a build tutorial video, just like little build tips, you know, just like how to clutter and doing like the little small I don't know the word for it, but like little small build tips. I've decided I want to do a video on that because I get a lot of questions about how to do certain things, and a lot of the time it's really difficult to reply in comment form. I feel like I physically need to show people how to do stuff. I'm not good at explaining things, even verbally. Like I can't explain it unless I'm doing it physically at the same time. So let me know if you'd be interested in a build tutorial, and if you've got any like specific questions about building, because I'm doing it in like an FAQ format. So basically the questions that I'm going to get asked, the questions that I'm going to be answering are the ones that I get most often, like on Instagram, YouTube comments, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'd like to know if you have any. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up the voiceover here and leave you to watch the screenshots. I hope that you enjoyed the second build of Tiny House Week. I really love this one. This is my favourite so far. Maybe that'll change, I don't know. You'll have to see, won't you? But anyway, I'm going to go. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like on it. And if you haven't subscribed already, then feel free to do that as well. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye!